On a sunny morning in a quaint little town, Tom the cat lounged on the porch of a cozy house, basking in the warmth. Inside, Jerry the mouse was busy stockpiling cheese in his tiny, well-hidden pantry. The kitchen was unusually quiet that day, and Jerry had noticed something strange. A towering wedge of golden Gouda sat unattended on the counter. It was the largest piece of cheese Jerry had ever seen, and its aroma was intoxicating. Jerry's eyes gleamed with mischief. This was no ordinary cheese. It was a masterpiece, perhaps even the holy grail of cheeses. The mouse rubbed his paws together, already scheming how to snag it. Meanwhile, Tom's ears twitched. He sensed that Jerry was up to something. Grinning slyly, Tom decided to lie in wait, his tail flicking in anticipation. He knew that Jerry couldn't resist such an opportunity. Phase 1. The approach. Jerry crafted a plan. Using a thread of yarn, he fashioned a pulley system to hoist the cheese from the counter to his mouse hole. With his contraption ready, Jerry tiptoed into the kitchen, careful not to make a sound. Tom, watching from the shadows, stifled a chuckle. He allowed Jerry to get close to the cheese, waiting for the perfect moment to pounce. Phase 2. The heist. Jerry tossed one end of the yarn over a hanging lamp and tied it securely around the cheese. As he pulled on the other end, the cheese began to lift off the counter. But just as Jerry began to haul the cheese toward his hole, Tom leapt out with a triumphant yowl, landing inches from Jerry. The mouse dropped the yarn and bolted, with Tom hot on his tail. Phase 3. The chase. What followed was a classic Tom and Jerry chase, complete with rolling pins, overturned furniture, and a trail of flour across the kitchen. Jerry darted under the sofa, around the coffee table, and through a small crack in the wall. Tom, undeterred, grabbed a broom and began poking into the mouse hole. Jerry, thinking quickly, used the other end of the yarn to trip Tom. The cat fell backward, crashing into the kitchen table. Phase 4. The unexpected twist. Amid the chaos, neither noticed the arrival of the house dog, Spike. The towering bulldog looked at the mess and growled, his patience at an end. Spike grabbed Tom by the scruff and glared at Jerry, who froze mid-step. The dog barked once, a warning to both troublemakers, before stomping off to nap in the backyard. The truce. Tom and Jerry, realizing they'd pushed their luck too far, shared a rare moment of understanding. Jerry offered Tom a small piece of the cheese as a peace offering. To everyone's surprise, Tom didn't swipe at Jerry. Instead, he smirked, took the cheese, and returned to his porch. Jerry scurried back to his hole, content with his smaller but still delicious share of Gouda. And for the rest of the day, the house remained unusually quiet, the truce holding firm, until the next great adventure. As the day stretched into the late afternoon, Tom lay sprawled on the porch, enjoying the last rays of sunlight. Inside, Jerry lounged in his cozy little hole, savoring his hard-earned piece of Gouda. For a brief moment, peace reigned in the house, a rare occurrence indeed. But such tranquility couldn't last. The midnight mischief. When night fell, Jerry, ever the opportunist, couldn't stop thinking about the massive cheese wedge still sitting on the counter. The little piece he'd offered Tom was good, but it wasn't enough to satisfy his ambitions. Jerry's eyes twinkled with renewed determination. This time, he needed to outsmart both Tom and Spike. He hatched a new plan, a distraction. Using some leftover string and a small bell, Jerry crafted a makeshift decoy that would ring and roll, sure to grab Tom's attention. If everything went smoothly, Jerry could snag the cheese without even being noticed. When the clock struck midnight, Jerry set his plan in motion. He tugged on the string, sending the bell bouncing noisily across the floor. As predicted, Tom's ears perked up. He bolted inside, thinking Jerry was up to his usual tricks. But Jerry was already scaling the kitchen counter using his pulley system. The cheese was within reach. The unlikely alliance, just as Jerry began lowering the cheese. A deep growl rumbled from the doorway. Spike stood there, his imposing figure silhouetted against the moonlight. His sharp eyes caught Jerry red-handed.
Jerry froze.
He knew he couldn't outrun Spike. But then, to Jerry's surprise, Spike didn't lunge. Instead, the dog sniffed the air, his expression softening. He wasn't angry. He was hungry. The aroma of the Gouda had lured him in. Realizing this, Jerry quickly whispered a new proposal. He squeaked softly, pointing at the cheese and gesturing for silence. Spike, intrigued, nodded. Together, the unlikely duo worked in harmony. Jerry directed Spike to gently push the cheese toward the edge of the counter while he held the pulley rope steady. Just as they were about to succeed, a loud crash came from behind them. Tom had returned, tripping over the bell trap and landing in a pile of pots and pans. With the last crumbs of the Gouda gone, the trio sat in a contented silence under the stars. Spike stretched out on the grass, his tail wagging lazily, while Jerry leaned against the cheese rind, his tiny belly full. Tom, though initially reluctant, couldn't help but purr softly, the tension of the day forgotten. Jerry, always the chatterbox, broke the silence. You know, he squeaked, we make a pretty good team when we're not trying to outdo each other. Tom rolled his eyes but didn't argue. Deep down, he knew Jerry was right. Spike gave a low grunt of agreement before closing his eyes, already halfway to sleep. As the night deepened, the unusual truce remained. For the first time in what felt like forever, the house was truly at peace. And though none of them would admit it outright, each secretly hoped for more moments like this. Moments where they could set aside their antics and just enjoy the simple joys of life. But, of course, morning would come soon, and with it new schemes, new chases, and new adventures. After all, what's life without a little chaos? And so, as the moon shone down on the unlikely trio, they drifted off to sleep, dreaming of the next great caper, together or apart. As the first light of dawn crept over the horizon, the trio began to stir. Spike was the first to rise, stretching and yawning before lumbering back to his usual spot on the porch. Jerry scampered off to his mouse hole, taking the last bit of cheese rind as a souvenir. Tom, still curled up under the tree, blinked lazily, savoring the quiet morning. But even as they returned to their respective corners of the house, a shared memory lingered. For one night, they'd proven that even the fiercest rivals could find common ground when it mattered most. Later that morning, Tom stood guard in the kitchen as the smell of breakfast filled the air. Jerry peeked out from his hole, watching Tom with a knowing smile. Spike lounged nearby, wagging his tail as he kept a sleepy eye on both of them. The truce, however temporary, had left its mark. And though Tom and Jerry were destined to resume their eternal game of cat and mouse, there was a newfound respect between them. They knew that beneath all the chases, traps, and tricks, they could rely on each other when the stakes were high. With a flick of his tail, Tom stepped away from the counter, leaving the morning's cheese platter unguarded for just a moment longer than usual. Jerry didn't miss the gesture. Grinning, he darted out, snagged a small piece, and vanished back into his hole. Spike chuckled to himself, already anticipating the next adventure. And so, life in the little house returned to its usual rhythm, a mix of chaos, mischief, and the occasional surprising moment of harmony. Because in their own unique way, Tom, Jerry, and Spike weren't just rivals. They were family,